David, you want to go in, Joe?
How about to the family?
In prosecuting the case, the Commonwealth had one eyewitness to say what exactly happened to David Reed. Through that testimony, it was determined that an argument broke out between Joe Geiger and David, and that Joe Geiger punched David in the head one time, knocking David to the floor. What more, the medical evidence supports a conclusion that David Reed died as a result of a single punch and a fall. Before Geiger actually entered his plea, the information that we had concerning the case was given to the Reed family. David's brother was informed of the evidence we had, along with both the strengths and the weaknesses of our witnesses. We informed David's brother that Joe Geiger was willing to plead guilty to the crimes of involuntary manslaughter, abuse of corpse, tampering with physical evidence, and simple assault. The decision of whether to accept the plea or take the case to trial was left to David's close family. We explained that we were willing to do whatever they wanted, and at the end point, the choice was theirs. After hearing the prosecution evidence and understanding the inherent risks involved in taking a case to trial, David's family indicated that they approved of the plea in which Joe Geiger would be sentenced on a charge of involuntary manslaughter. The family wanted Joe Geiger to take responsibility for the death of David Reed, and they wanted closure to this incident. It is the family's hope that David can now be buried and again rest in peace. In supporting the decision of the Reed family, the District Attorney's Office believes that a plea to the charge of involuntary manslaughter is appropriate. This was a death that occurred as a result of a single punch. The typical facts that would support a conviction for third-degree murder are not present. Namely, there were no multiple punches, there was no kicking, there were no multiple attackers, and there was no use of any weapon, deadly weapon. With the facts available to the Commonwealth, involuntary manslaughter is the strongest charge. As part of the plea agreement, Joe Geiger was required to sit down with the prosecution and explain in his own words what happened. Geiger's version is very similar to the third-party Commonwealth witness, with the exception that greater detail was provided. Joe Geiger stated that as a result of punching David Reed, David fell backwards and hit his head off of a metal bunk. Just like the third-party witness, Geiger indicated that David Reed was motionless on the floor of the train car that they were inside of. Geiger explained that he panicked and left the car for approximately 20 minutes before returning to check on David. Geiger stated that he wasn't sure what to do because he never intended to kill David. He explained that as he returned to the car, David was still laying motionless on the floor. Geiger left again, remained outside of the car for a period of time, and then returned, only to find David laying on the floor. Geiger explained that he was scared, and as a result, he carried David's body to a secluded area behind his house. It is there where he placed David's body and covered the body with leaves and branches in an effort to hide the body from being discovered. Joe Geiger also indicated during this discussion that after David was formally buried, he would periodically visit the gravesite. Geiger even stated that he later worked at the cemetery and would actually visit David's place of burial. The District Attorney's Office hopes that the Reed family can now have closure to this event. We also hope that now, finally, David Reed can rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
For those people that knew me during this investigation, I'm going to tell you that I had a lot of good days in this investigation, and I had a lot of bad days. But today, with the sentencing, with Joe Geiger taking responsibility, today's a very good day for us, myself included. My first conversations with Virginia Reed, Virginia Meadows, that was David's older sister. She passed away 2 years roughly this month. I contacted her early on in this investigation, basically asking for the family's blessings for their support during this case, and she broke down crying, saying that she thought nobody cared, that the family was poor, and that's why David's case had been brushed aside. And getting to know her and the family, they were very supportive, very encouraging, very appreciative of the efforts that we put forward. On my bad days, that's what got me through this investigation.
Well, I'm glad he finally took responsibility. We always kind of felt that it was him that was responsible. We're not exactly thrilled that he's not going to spend hardly any time in jail, but at least we know he didn't get away with it. You know, everyone knows that he did it now. We know, Dave can be reburied, and we all have that peace of mind now that